What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up to all the difference makers out there? We have another phenomenal episode. Another episode of Coffee and Grit, and it's really awesome. And I talk about people being our greatest resources. And in the last episode, we were talking about like keeping our head on a swivel, right? And the last couple episodes have just been talking about people. Like people are all the difference. And I got to at the beginning of the month speak at an unplugged retreat out in Davisburg at this. It's really cool. It's a bee farm, which I'd never been out into a bee farm before, but it's a really cool all day event. And there's just a lot of incredible people. So I got to speak, but then I also got to be a part of the different other speakers. And I got to meet a lot of awesome people. And Cory is one of those awesome people. And so it's meeting entrepreneurs that have that purpose, that passion. And Cory is one of them. She has a company called Red Oak Refillery. And I'm super excited because I don't know her story, how it all started. So I'm super excited as we dive into that to learn more. So Cory, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you again.
It's great seeing you too. It's great catching up here a little bit while we've been doing the mic checks and the flight attendant.
Yes. Yes. Very informative.
You'll be the first person to bring my and Grant's routine to the world. With
and I will too. I'm going to be doing reels like this was cool. Check it out.
So, like I said, we didn't get a chance. We were in the event to really dive in and talk about, what you're doing as far as how you got started and, obviously what you're doing and kind of share that with the audience.
Sure. Yeah. So the Red Oak Refillery is a place where you can bring your own containers and you can fill products like household cleaners and body care items, and you just pay by the ounce for the product. So you don't need another plastic bottle every time you need shampoo and conditioner, laundry soap, those kinds of things. So it's basically, we're trying to reduce waste, specifically plastic waste. And then all of the products that I offer are made by women in Michigan. So everything's locally made and it's all natural products. So we're trying to make sure that the products are safe for people, but also safe for your home, your pipes, your septic system, the sewers, but also safe for the environment once it gets washed back into the water system. So there's a lot of different values involved in the whole idea. But yeah, so that's the refillery itself. That's the concept. And there are 3 locations right now. So I do, my model is different also than a lot of other refilleries in the country. Most people do the brick and mortar after they get started, but I decided that the brick and mortar idea wasn't going to work for me. And I'll probably talk about that a little bit more, why and everything. Yeah. But I went right to partnering with other businesses. So they have stations inside their existing businesses. So I don't have to be there. And it was nice because I can have a wider footprint. I have 3 locations and I'm able to come and do things like this and network and do, the other parts of my business that matter to me and do other outreach and things that I want to do, and then still have my stations running. And there's 3 of them there for people. So
how did you think of that?
Well, honestly, it came out of necessity for me, me understanding myself and who I am and knowing what my limits are. And I said, this is not going to be something I can do. I can't sit at a brick and mortar store. And financially, I knew I wasn't going to be able to hire somebody right away. So I'm not going to be sitting here Tuesday through Saturday or whatever these days are going to be. Also, I got
whatever hours.
Kids. Right. Exactly. I have 2 kids. There's just it's not going to work for me. I have a history of dealing with anxiety, depression, PTSD, lots of things. And I was like, I know me, and that's not going to be me. Yep. It's not going to work. So it's not that I wouldn't have wanted to. It would have been great, but I just knew what my limitations were. And I said, no, I've got to make this work for what I can do, what I need. So I sat down. Actually, it was a business retreat I was going on with my business mentor and also a really good friend. And she, it was a week long in the Dominican Republic, and it was a year ago, January. And we ended up going, and I spent that whole week rewriting my entire business plan. And I changed the entire thing. And that's when I was like, okay, how can I do this? And I'm like, I really want to just have places. I want to have stations.
Yeah.
I want to work with other people, utilize their traffic that they already have, but it's been a long road of learning, learning who to work with and what kind of customer, base they need to have and where they need to be located and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, because you're probably really now meshing up what you're doing with the customer, with companies that care and have clients and customers that care.
Yeah. It's been very interesting being in all the different places I've been in, learning all the little details, which is great because now actually my goal is to write a book and put together a whole kind of course for other aspiring refillery owners to be able to do it the way that I'm doing it and use my model, because what we're seeing is a lot of the places that originally started out in California and out in New York, who kind of started this trend really in the first place, the most of them, a lot of them are unfortunately starting to close now because they maybe didn't have as much business experience, or maybe they were working a full-time job and then opened a brick and mortar store at the same time, or whatever the case was. People
struggling finding employees or scaling that brick and mortar. Do you have the brick and mortar expenses?
Right, exactly. And another big piece of this is education, because especially adults, we really get ingrained in our habits. And consumerism in America is very, very well ingrained in, you run to the store, you grab what you need in its packaging, and you take it home.
Yep.
And then you unpackage it and you throw away the packaging and then you use it.
And
when you need another one, you do the same thing. And using a refillery changes that mindset, that whole process completely. You have to think ahead. You have to go, okay, what do I need? Where am I going to go for that? What containers do I need to grab and bring with me ahead of time? And then you go, you get what you need, you get the amount that you need, and then you bring it home. And then it's that same process the next time. You have to, so it's a change in habit.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you have to think about why, you have to be thinking about why you would want to do that.
Why you want to do that. Yeah.
Why would someone want to do that? It's way more inconvenient.
Yep.
Clearly, so there's a lot of education involved in this. So if you just go, this is a great idea and I know it matters and I know it's going to be huge, I'm going to make a store.
Yep.
You're going to struggle, there's a lot more involved than that. So I've spent a lot of my time educating. That's mostly what I do, is educate. So because of that, there's actually a really great platform out there called the Refillery Collective, and it's basically its own social media platform, but it's all for refillery owners. It's all for aspiring refillery owners. And it's actually now also for the public, because there's a directory too. So you can go on and you can find refilleries all over the country. And I work closely with her. I'm a mentor through that group, so people can reach out to me and have time to work with me as a mentor. And I also do webinars where we'll answer community questions. And so she, talks with a lot of refillery owners all over the country. And this is what, she's kind of come to me and said, this is what I'm seeing happening. And I think to prevent this, we need to have a model like yours that we can really get out to everybody, because it's so low risk. We don't have the overhead. I think I've put in 9 total stations, and I currently have 3 running. So if one doesn't work out, you just take it down.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it. It takes
it's
a half an hour.
Pretty low risk to the vendor too, or to the shop.
Yes, exactly. And I have my own contract, so I figured all that out too, as far as how we're going to work out the finance of it and all that stuff and how long and those things. And in some places they wanted to use their own contract, and I did that, and then I learned my lesson, and then I don't do that anymore. But so those are the kind of things that now I can say, here's what you want to watch out for.
Yeah.
These are the experiences I've had. This is probably the best way to do it.
Your model just seems like it makes so much sense, because it's also about probably impacting more.
Yeah.
And you can impact more when you can set up shop and really using your partnerships.
Yes.
Using the community.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Versus hoping people come to your one store in whatever location it is in California or wherever. Right.
And the ability to, like I said, do the outreach that you need to do even for marketing. I can do so much more. I'm an ambassador with my Chamber of Commerce. So I can, go to events and I can talk to people and I can do that education that has to happen.
Yeah.
And if you're in a store all day, you can only do social media posts. You can't be there and do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Until you can afford to have employees.
We're not meeting at a retreat on a Friday. We're going to spend the whole day.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So, and then at some point, a brick and mortar may make sense after, not for me personally, but for after this part of the process. If you're doing my model, then after that, it might make sense. And it's even a good add-on as well. So if somebody already has a brick and mortar, have satellite locations if you want to have a larger footprint than just your brick and mortar. So, there's a lot that what I'm doing can be utilized for. And so that's really what I want to do with what I'm doing next.
That's so exciting. That's like outside of even the impact you're doing in your community.
Yeah.
That's stepping it up and
So
really sending the ripples.
Yeah. So that's kind of where my focus is right now, is getting that framework for all that laid out. I gotta write a book. That's a thing, Yeah.
Yeah. Have you started that yet?
I haven't. I've been so intimidated, but I have to say which I don't know why. I've already started writing a book. I have a children's book that I started writing that I'm like half done with.
Yeah.
That is awesome. It's like a mid-grade book. So it's like fun fantasy. Like it's so awesome. I love it. But I'm a little partial, but I had to set it aside because of the refillery. This called me and I said, this is what I'm going to do. But after the retreat, I learned all about the AI stuff and about like the Chat GPT and how it can help me get my outline laid out and do all those things. And so now that I've remembered, I have that tool and I don't have to just old school late 1900s, like figure it all out with just my brain. I've got the tools. So, I think that'll make it.
ChatGPT is a game changer.
Yeah.
It really does. It's a really helpful tool. It's so funny. I just talked about something I learned from the AI thing from the AI presentation yesterday. That was really good. Just really insightful on the stuff there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before we get back at it, a quick shout out for our sponsor, Playbook Builder, powered by AI. This show has always been about giving the resources and the tools to small business owners in order to grow and scale your businesses successfully. And so I'm so excited to partner with a company that does just that. If you've listened and heard any of our guests, you've heard talking about building process, developing and training, building culture are all such important pieces in order to building a great company. Well, Playbook Builder, powered by AI, has come along and revolutionized the game on how you can do that for your team and people. Whether you're onboarding new people, training and developing, continued training and developing, you're looking to scale your business or eventually sell, or most importantly, you're looking to build a legacy as a visionary. Playbook Builder, powered by AI, is able to solve those problems for you. For me, as a consultant, I've been able to plug in, and it's so amazing for what I do for clients. I can now leave a legacy. And so, for example, I'm next week training a new hire for a company, and I've been able to build out the next month of her training program using Playbook Builder, powered by AI. The cool thing about the AI, what does that do? What's the hardest part of building out a process? Taking the step by step and making it easy to learn. What the AI piece does is you can actually type in what process it is, whether you want to onboard, if you want to onboard a new employee, type in onboard a new employee and what type of industry you're in, and the AI will put together a foundation for you to build out your playbook. It is absolutely incredible. But don't take my word for it. Head on over to playbookbuilder.com, and these guys have set it up to where you can take this for a test run with no obligations. Plug in what kind of playbook you want to build. If it's a sales training playbook, for example, plug that in the description. And in the description, you can also put in what kind of industry you're in, and then hit generate, and it will generate a playbook for you. Impressed from there, and you can take a 30-day free trial of the playbook system altogether. You talked about like getting that calling. What was that?
Yeah. Well, so I'll go back a little bit further. So the history of all this for me is I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, and I wanted to be like a therapist, but I didn't want to do more school than just my undergraduate degree. So that wasn't going to happen. So I went into social work. When I got out of college, I started as an adoption worker. I did adoption and foster care, and I did that for a year, and I loved it, but I didn't make any money. So the next step most people do from there is go to work for the government. You work for the state level. So that's what I did, and I worked welfare. And so that I did for about 5 years, which is the like literal typical burnout point, 5 years. And I did.
I could imagine.
Yeah. So I did. And that was the point where I was diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety. And I had already had depression from previous things that from my past before that. So at that point, it was like, this is what I had set for my whole life to be, was doing this kind of work and working with people and helping people. And then I had to go off on disability, and I had so many triggers of things. I couldn't work with a computer anymore. If I sat in front of a computer, it triggered PTSD for me. I had so many different things that triggered that I wasn't going to be able to do a lot of different jobs. And I definitely wasn't going to be able to do that kind of work at that time. So I didn't even know what to do. I was like, you know.
Yeah. It's like
just
your livelihood is all
flailing.
of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah. I never expected anything like that. So I just started trying everything, literally everything. I was like in insurance sales. I did like supplemental insurance sales. So I was going into people's homes and just doing these memorized presentations, and it was crazy. And that whole world it was like, have you ever seen the movie Boiler Room?
Yes. Yeah, I've been in the situations you've been in. Yeah.
It was a thing. That's a real thing.
I've been in the boiler room. It's a real thing.
I was there. So yes, I did that. And you know,
Kirby vacuums, like same thing. Yeah.
And did great, and then got sick and did terrible. And so, you know, and I worked as a pet groomer. I worked as a financial planner at a hospital. I worked as a financial advisor, guidance person at a hospital. I worked as a bed traffic controller person in the hospital. So like air traffic control, but instead of planes and landing strips, it's people and beds. Yeah. Like
Someone's got to do that. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was in a little room with no windows, and I had like the afternoon shift. So it was just, I was like in a cave, and you have a giant digital board of all the beds in the whole hospital. And it's like a video game.
Oh my God.
It was actually awesome. I did that for like 2.5 years. I could have done that probably for longer, but it was the people that I worked with. And that was my main thing. That's what ended up happening at every job I had. I would, you know, something would happen. Like at that job, actually, I ended up getting pregnant with my son, my firstborn. And while I was pregnant, I couldn't take my anxiety medication. And so I actually shifted while I was there into the financial counselor position from the bed control position to make more money. But then I was on the day job, the day shift, and I was sitting out there with all the other people, and I hate to say this, but it does happen. I was with all women, and they all wanted to gossip with each other, and I didn't want to be a part of it, which then made me part of then they wanted to gossip about me. And it all
put the target on your back.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it all got mixed in with the job, and it ended up being awful, and with anxiety. And then I was paranoid. And so then I ended up having to go off again. I was off on FMLA while I was pregnant because my doctor was like, nope, this is too much stress while you're pregnant, you know? And so it was again, like that same kind of situation. And I'm like, this isn't working. So, you know, I did a few, I taught some classes for people who were had misdemeanors and felonies, and to avoid having jail time, they could take these classes. So anger management, impulse control, different things like that. So I was able to kind of use my degree again, the psychology aspect, and do that and teach those classes. And that I did for a good few years. I did that through, and then my daughter was born 2.5 years later. I did that through that whole period. And it was like, I could just make my own schedule. So it was kind of like being self-employed, right?
Yeah.
Because after all these years after that, that's what I ended up figuring out. I just can't work for somebody else. That's what ended up happening. I can't work for somebody else. And I figured that out. You know, it wasn't going to work. Something always would happen where the anxiety would come back and it would just take over. It just took over and I couldn't do it. So I tried several different things, and this is like a whole nother area that I always gloss over it and say, I've had a few other businesses before this one. Mm-hmm. And I never get into that. And I don't know if we'll have time, but I'd like to touch on that a little bit because I've realized that I gloss over that on purpose because I'm ashamed of some of that.
Yep.
And I think it's really important to actually talk about those things because I know that I'm not the only one that you have to do those things. And I want to talk about why I realize now that those things are important, actually, even though I'm kind of embarrassed by some of those things.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So my parents were both teachers, and they were, so it was like I needed a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yep.
Like I was in that institution mindset.
Yep.
And that's all I'd ever understood. So for me to think I can just start a business and I'm going to live off that. Like, I mean, I was starting from, like, you might as well have been talking to me from a different dimension,
yep.
right?
Yep.
So
in our minds, it is another dimension.
it is.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like thinking about a dream, like live in a dream. I can't, which is funny because that's where I am now. And I look back at my mindset then and I'm like, wow, that's completely elsewhere, But yeah, so my first business that I tried to do was this thing called Local Goods Michigan. And man, I was excited about it. I still have a lot of passion in my heart about that idea, a lot like I do with my refillery. But I wanted to have a store, and I wanted to have just all local things like that people made. And there's a lot of stores out there now like that.
Yeah.
This was probably 8 years ago. So it was kind of before that actually started happening. And now they're out there, right?
Yeah.
So, but I worked with the SBDC, and she kind of said to me, the lady I worked with said, you should just start an e-commerce store first. Like you should just be online first, I think the SBDC there is to try to like break your soul so that you can, I do, so that you can like, to see if you really have the strength to do it or not. I do. It's like that first year of college where they try to weed you out. If you make
Navy
it through
SEALs.
it, then
it's like Navy SEALs. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's the SBDC. So if anybody works with the SBDC, just expect that they're going to crush you. They're going to crush that passion that you have. They're going to try to, at least. But anyway, I did the online, and I think I sold one item. But what I did do is I built a whole website from scratch by myself, never having done it before. Huh. And I connected with all of these local businesses who all thought it was a great idea and all gave me permission to sell their stuff on my website. And so now I had all these connections with all these people, and I had a bunch of cool products because I did actually buy a bunch of products. And so I had all this stuff. I had like the Detroit, I can't remember what they're called now, but it was the Detroit Beard Company.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I had all their beard care items.
Yeah.
Like, it was so cool. And then I had Michigan Outfitter, who was actually a friend of mine. I went to high school with him. I had his stuff. I had Mama Suds stuff, which actually, so Mama Suds is now who I'm selling at the refillery. But I had her stuff, and this was when she was still working out of her house. She had her old label on everything, which is now cool because I have all of her old bottles and stuff that I've saved up.
Awesome.
And I'm going to do something cool one time and take like a picture of everything together and like give her this cool picture.
That's so cool.
When she's, so like making over $1 million a year, and I can go, look at this.
Look at this.
All the old labels. But yeah, so that's what I got out of that. And I always, like I said, I always gloss over and I look back and I'm like, that's so embarrassing. Like I didn't even sell anything. I just had this website and it didn't even do anything. And, and then I think after that I switched from that, and then I started LuLaRoe. Okay, this is super embarrassing. So LuLaRoe is direct sales.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
My sister did it.
Your sister did it?
Does it? I think she still does it. Yeah.
She still does it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm so interested in that. Now I want to ask you questions, but I won't. Okay. So I did that for 2.5 years. And that was that was real good business experience for me. Like I probably made more money doing that than I do with my refillery right now. Yeah. To be quite honest. I made really good money doing that. Not really good money, but I made good money for me for a business, for my first business. And or for my first money making business. But there were so many values issues for me, like with the company that did not align, and also the clothing aspect. The clothes was very straight line. The clothes are made, they come to you, they go to the landfill. They're made, they come to you, it was not, there was no circularity at all. And it was really terrible for the environment. And I couldn't do, and not only that, but some of these women were addicted to buying. So this was where I was doing those Facebook lives that I was talking about earlier before we got on live. And I would get on, and these people would get on, and there were women who I couldn't say their names out loud. So normally if someone would purchase something, I would say, okay, Stephanie, you got it. That one's yours. Yeah. And I would encourage them. And it was this whole this whole culture. And I'd be like, yeah, that's great. You got it. Awesome. This one's going to look so good on you, whatever it was, and I'd encourage them. But certain people, and I had to know who they were, I couldn't say. I'd be like, you got it, girl. Good job. Like, that one's yours. But I couldn't say their name, because if their husband heard while they were watching, they would get in trouble. Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. Yes. And so it just felt so.
I was like, it's an addiction. It's like drug dealing.
Yes. Oh, and let me tell you, the husbands, I'd meet the husbands, and the husbands all looked at me like, oh, it's her,
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that was me. And I was like, this is not, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
There were so many reasons why I couldn't keep doing that job.
Yeah.
But then I ended up actually getting sick at the end. So I got a cold. It lasted for like 4 months. And finally I was so busy, and my husband said, no, you need to go to the doctors. You don't have a cold for 4 months. And so, I ended up I have had this last 4 years of like this ongoing, we don't know exactly what it is that's going on, but I'm pretty sure I became allergic to a bunch of things and food sensitivities and things like that. We're just starting to get it under control, so that's good. But I couldn't work. I was very sick. Like, I ended up having sinus surgery and crazy things, but I couldn't work. The company switched designers, all the clothes changed, and the previous designers' clothes, I couldn't even sell my pieces for like $1 a piece to other retailers, like wholesale back for $1 a piece for clothing that I was paying like $11 wholesale a piece.
Yeah.
So there was nothing I could do. I couldn't sell them to customers at all, but I couldn't even sell them to another retailer. So that was it. I had to be done with that. There was just it was fine. I needed to not go back because it clearly didn't fit with anything for me.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that I tend to get really embarrassed about. It embarrasses me that I did that, but I didn't know, and I learned so much.
You learned so much.
Oh my gosh. I made spreadsheets. I tracked all of my finances. I was very serious about it. And I learned that about myself, that I learned what I'm capable of. I learned that I can take something serious. I learned that I can set my own schedule. I learned that I can manage working for myself and setting my schedule and working at my house while I've got kids to take care of and managing that time. And of course I wasn't perfect, but I learned that I can do that. And so what a boost to be able to go, oh, now I can do whatever, And
that's the thing is I talked to so many people that they have experiences they're embarrassed of. They did things just like what we're talking about right now that they gloss over, or they don't talk about. And I've shared a few stories of myself that along the way. But those were put in our life for a reason. We typically get something out of it. We learn something from it, right? And a lot of reasons. That's why we're here in doing what we're doing now. Right. It's the reason why, or a big part of the reason why we're able to do that, because we got something out of it. I see so many skills and things that you talked about from that selling standpoint, from the relationship with the Mama Suds that turned out the relationship you still have now. Yes. From all these years.
We met in 3rd grade. We've been friends since we were little, but still the other people though, it taught me how to network. It taught me that I can just call somebody right up if I want to make a connection. Yes. Because a lot of people think oh, this person, whoever, the owner of this major company, they're not going to, I can't just call them. Right. Why not? Yes, you can.
Yes,
if their number's there, or they're on Instagram or whatever, send them a message. You totally can, so just those kinds of things, changing the mindset, breaking that glass ceiling that I had there for sure, of just the concept of understanding what it means to not only be a business owner, but also to, forge my own path, not have any limits. I'm going to get to where I want to go. That's going to happen. It's just a matter of which way I'm going to take to get there and how fun it's going to be and how long it's going to take,
It's the process of uncaging the beast.
Yeah.
One of my guests a few episodes ago, Dan Aginski, said that he's in full belief that the walls that we put ourselves around, the walls that we put up around us to keep us safe and comfortable, become our cages. Yeah. And I look at that as we're living life to uncage ourselves. Yeah. And it's these experiences that you go, that's you find out that you can ask people, you can reach out to people. You want to know something? Call them.
Yeah.
find out, reach out to them, especially now on social media. You can reach out to anybody.
Yeah.
I met you and we were talking about the podcast. You're like, can I be on? Like,
Yep.
Absolutely. You had no hesitation in asking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so you don't get, it's like you don't get unless you ask.
Right.
You don't
but
get.
people have this thing that blocks them from asking.
Yes.
And that's that piece that, I don't know if it's the difference between being an entrepreneur and not, the mental, difference, but whatever that is.
I think that's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is it goes against everything that we're taught.
Yeah.
In society. It's that be humble. Like, like, and I hate it because like be humble often gets told like, already most of our thoughts are negative. Most of our thoughts about what we're not. And so be humble, don't talk about the things that you're good at.
Right.
Right? Like we should be
thinking
about and honing in and being aware of what are we good at.
Right. What those strengths are.
And focusing on that as opposed to focusing all this time on what am I not good at.
Right.
And you ran out because if you started like, how can I get better at these things so I can open up brick and mortar? No, you built a business around who are you?
Right.
Around what you're aware of yourself around.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so before the refillery, I still had other things. Like I still tried some other things. I mean, I had another website that was going to be eco-friendly things. And I wanted to do like drop shipping. I was like, let me try this. It's the fast and easy thing, so drop shipping, in case anybody doesn't know, the drop shipping thing is where I never see the product. All of the products I have available on my website, if you order through me, it actually comes from somebody else. So they do all the shipping. So when the order comes through me, it triggers it to go to this other place. They package it up, send it to you. I never even see it. The money comes to me and then whatever the wholesale price is goes to them.
Yep.
So it's like, I just make the money. All I have to do is do all the marketing part, right?
Yep.
So it's one of those get rich quick things, which some people do it and it works.
Yep.
But I've also seen those programs of what it takes to do all of the advertising on social media and all of the email marketings and all that stuff. And that's a full-time job just in itself, is just doing that stuff. And it's fascinating and it can be done, but I learned that from that job again, right? So
public service announcement, there's no get rich quick scheme. It all takes work.
Yes,
and,
it does.
You
Yes,
talked
exactly.
about LuLaRoe. I got really, what changed my life was getting in network marketing when I was young. Like, and it's one of those things that's like, you don't talk about a lot, but like that personal development, that asking, meeting people that were just different people than I'd ever met before, kind of that, even the concept of being an entrepreneur changed my life.
Yeah.
Like if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So you just think about those different experiences that open you up and, put you in this position.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yep.
Man. So, what else did you say? You did something else in between that too before the refillery?
Yeah. And then I was doing knitting business. So I love to knit and crochet, but I wanted that to be, again, eco-friendly and have that whole aspect. So I grew up on a farm up in Nortonville. And
nice.
My parents just taught me how to live. We gardened everything. We had animals. Like we lived sustainably.
Yeah.
That just was the way we lived. And it was out of mutual respect for our environment. Like we took care of what we lived on and it took care of us. And that's just the way I was raised. So that's my mindset about how we live on the planet. And so here I was knitting, crocheting, whatever. And I found a place in Peru that had women who were being paid fairly and they were able to take care of their families, but they were growing the cotton, organic cotton, and they were harvesting it and they were hand spinning it and they were hand dyeing it using botanical dyes. So it was all safe. And it was this beautiful, amazingly feeling like great cotton, so it's hypoallergenic for people too. So I started knitting things. I was making halter tops, but very, very niche like audience. So I'm saying my halter tops were like $400 a piece.
Wow.
And I sold a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I, started finding that audience and started finding that. But meanwhile, so I could actually survive, help not survive, but help support my family, help to contribute.
Yeah.
I was working 1-2 days a week at Mama Suds. And she had just moved everything from her home, working there, into an actual industrial complex. So she's we're bursting at the seams out of her house. So that was good news. And also it turned out that place was 15 minutes closer to my house. So I was like, okay, now I can start working for you. So I started working for her, and, things are going really well with Mama Suds. And she says to me one day, 30% of my wholesale sales are going to these refilleries all over the country. Like, they're really starting to blow up. Lots of them happening. And you really need to look at it because it's right up your alley.
Right up your alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I, did some research and started looking at it. And there was actually another gal that was working with us there too. And she wanted to partner with me. So we were going to partner and do a refillery together. And so that's how it started. And I still at that point did not have the faith in myself that I'd be able to do it alone. And she had like a form of leukemia of sorts that made it so that she felt she wouldn't be able to, there may be a point where she wouldn't be able to keep helping me. And she said, I don't want to get into this with you and then have myself not be able to,
help out. And
follow through with what I said I would do. So she pulled out of it, but I said, in my head, I said, okay, this isn't going to be what I do then. And I said something to her and she said, no, you can do it by yourself. And I was like, I can? And I asked my friend Michelle, she's the owner of Mama Suds, and she said, yeah, you can. And I was like, really? I can? Because still in my mind, I've got my mental health stuff going on and I'm thinking, I don't know if I can, because sometimes there's times where I'm just down and there's nothing I can do.
Yep.
I might have days at a time where I'm not going to be productive. And I just know that,
yep.
At that point in my life. And they were like, no, you can do it. So that's why I said, when I'm developing this whole idea, I'm going to do this, but when I'm going to do it so that it fits me. Because that's the only way it's going to be successful. And I knew that. And I it was that entrepreneurial mindset that I changed how I was thinking. And I said, I can make it however I want it to be. That's the beauty of it.
That's beauty.
Yeah.
I
can make it exactly the way I want it to be to fit my life and what works for me. And the more I do that, the more successful I'm going to be at it. And I knew that. So, that was the lesson, I guess, for me. And it's proven itself because this September will be 2 years.
Wow.
So still brand new, but
For 2 years.
Doing well. Yeah.
That's so cool. And you're in 3 locations, you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I love the concept of not even using, but partnering with these other places, because you are bringing in their community. They already have a traffic, like you said, and it's low risk, but they're coming there anyways. And then they probably have the same kind of core values as what you and your company have.
Yeah. When I first started September 2 years ago, I was doing pop-ups. So pop-ups meaning I would set up a couple of 6-foot tables and I started at Harvest Time Farm Market. It's like a little, and it's in a pet store. So it has a pet store, big, like actual like warehouse style store. But then during like the fall, summer, spring, they have flowers, they have produce, they have whatever is in season, all outside. And so during the fall time, while they had all of their stuff out, I set up outside Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And people come, and it was a lot of education. Again, everybody thought I had honey or tea or liquor. I'm like, no, I don't have 2-gallon dispensers of liquor. Not today, sorry. But
they were hoping.
Yeah. I was like, no, not today.
I just had a great business idea, by the way. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah. That is, yes, there you go.
Fill up the bourbon.
Yes. But yeah, so I did that for a couple of months. And then when the cold season hit and they shut the outside part down and shut everything down, I left there and I moved down the road and went into a local coffee shop. And I thought, so you have all these things going through your mind. I'm thinking, this is going to be perfect. This is where all the moms go after they drop their kids off at school in the morning. So I asked them and I started setting up there, and I did that for a couple months. I did that through the holiday season and through January that year. And it didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to at all, because everybody was coming in, grabbing their coffee and leaving.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that way. There were some people, but it was almost always the same people. And I was like, and like after 3 weeks, they might walk over and go, what do you have here? But I did okay. And I was building a customer base, and a lot of the people that met me at the farm market ended up coming over and finding me at Lava Mountain.
It's that consistency. You're there. You keep showing up.
Yes. But it wasn't consistent enough. And that was the thing. I was only there Friday, Saturdays, maybe Sunday, but usually just Fridays and Saturdays. And I was only there for like a 6-hour span because I don't have the time. I knew I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to sit there like that. And that was that point where I said, okay, I'm not schlepping this stuff anymore. it's been 4 or 5 months or whatever it was. That's enough of this. I've got a little bit of a customer base. I've got a following on social media for this. Like, I'm in the chambers. Like, I have enough, I have enough behind me that now I need to figure out what's next. And that was like right at that point. It was that January. I just finished through at that point, and then we went on that trip, and I was like, this is where I'm figuring out what's happening now. So the timing worked out the way it needed to for that. But yeah. And then the challenge after that was, my mentor said to me, you're going to get a bunch of no's. Just be ready for all these places that you go to say, hey, do you want to partner with me and do this? Because who, as a business owner who sells stuff on shelves, wants to go, yeah, I'll take this big stand or station or whatever you're going to have of liquid soaps and stuff that's going to spill, and that's going to, maybe I have to clean it up, and that I have to teach my employees what this stuff means and how this stuff works. And now I got to educate my customers, and they're going to have questions, and what is this? And, so that was like, how do I sell that to them?
Yeah.
How do I find places that are going to want to say, yes, we have this sustainable option in here. Yes, this matters to us. We want to make a difference too. We're willing to do all those things because it matters to us too, So, and it ended up that the first place I asked said no. The second place I asked said yes. And then after that, people just started contacting me.
Wow.
So.
How did they find you after that? Was it because that first person that said yes? Did they tell somebody or?
No. So I one of the other things too is that and then this goes back to those other businesses. I started being involved in chambers of commerce, like back with LuLaRoe, and that was a huge, awesome thing. Like that, I highly recommend that to anybody who's going to have a business. Join a chamber of commerce. Oh my gosh, it's makes such a difference. But because of all the people that I knew and all the people that I met, like it was so like I had built all that social capital up to the point that, I did LuLaRoe for 2.5 years, and I met all those people, and I built all those relationships, and it was like a giving relationship, because I want to know what they're doing, and I want to see how I can help them, and what ways can I do that. That then when I got sick and I couldn't do that anymore, and then when time went by and everybody kind of knew, like Cory kind of fell off, like we don't know where she's at, she hasn't been around, not in the chamber anymore. Well, then I started doing the Refillery, and my first location was in Waterford, and that was the chamber I was in when I was doing LuLaRoe. I hopped back in the chamber, and people were like, oh my gosh, Cory's back. And it was like, as soon as they knew what I was doing, people were helping me look for places. People were talking to people. People were, asking around and having ideas. This place sounds good. Oh, this place, blah, blah, blah. And then people were talking. And then in addition to that, I guess I did a really good job on Google, because I Googled my business, because people would say, I Googled, bulk refill, whatever. And I came up, and when I started, there was Walking Lightly down in Ferndale. But other than that, there wasn't anything else around here. So I was probably the only thing to come
I was going to say, that's what's really cool about the niche that you're in. Mm-hmm. One end, you're fighting because you're doing a lot of education. Mm-hmm. You got to educate people. But on the other end, if people are Googling it and it's something that's important to them, they're going to find you because there's not many.
Yep.
That's really cool.
And that's actually been nice, because I've been able to do speaking engagements, because same thing.
Yeah.
People want somebody to talk about sustainability or talk about, something that's related to just green, whatever. And they'll do a search and I come up. And that's happened to me twice just this year already.
That's awesome.
So I helped Orion Oaks Elementary in Lake Orion get their green certification this year, which was awesome. So excited about that. And I'm going to work with them next year to get their, I think emerald is the highest. I can never remember what the colors are. Some shade of green is the highest level of that certification. So they're going to get that next year, and I'm on their committee to do that. So we're going to work together to do that. And then hopefully I can take that program to the other elementary schools in Lake Orion. And I'd love to just keep going with that too, because I love that, because the kids are the ones, like we talked about earlier, that habit of consumerism.
Yeah.
The kids are the ones that are coming up that are going to be wanting, they're going to be the ones that can start differently. So,
introducing it to them early.
Yeah.
Creating those habits early. So when you're creating those habits early, it's not a big change as you get into adult.
Right. Exactly. And if they're hearing about it as kids, like it's not going to be weird for them later. They're going to know exactly what that is,
That is genius, by the way, as far as with the schools, getting them, because there's a little measurable there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I've been able to do that, and I've been able to do other education pieces where, Leadership Oakland is another one. They reached out and asked me to come out, and actually another refillery owner also came, and the two of us kind of did a presentation together, like side by side, which was really nice. So yeah, Google's been the machine, I guess, for that, for me too. So
Google, and then it's the people, right? It's the relationships that you build. I love how you said the social capital, building up the social capital, and it's not like you're going out and taking.
No.
You built up, to your point, relationships.
Yes, that's my favorite thing about my job. Honestly, that's my favorite thing. I love it. Like I loved meeting you. I loved meeting everybody else that was at that. Like my favorite thing is just to find people that I can connect with and figure out how we can help each other. And so, and my next goal is to create an event that all the refillery owners can come to in Michigan.
Yeah.
So we can all get together, because I've been to almost everybody and met almost everybody in person. I haven't been up to the UP to meet them yet, but, and almost all of them have said to me, we need to have something where we can all get together so we can all talk, So
how do you change the world? One person at a time, right? When you're all on the same purpose, that's what I love, is like when you can work together with people. Obviously you guys probably, people in your industry or people doing the refilleries are probably have the same passion, purpose, but you look at anybody, like I look at sales coaches, and I love working with other coaches, other sales coaches, because it's like the power of collaboration. We can change the world together. It's hard one by one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because, I can only have my own ideas. Like, that's pretty limited.
Well, but then even what does your idea then help spark somebody else? It's like, I can reach more audiences outside of my brick and mortar with your idea.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And so now I'm working also to get this whole vending machine idea off the ground. I'm working with a company in Canada who makes these vending machines, and I'm hoping to get one in my hands here in the next, by the end of July, because that's going to be the future of what I'm doing. Not this hand pumping and weighing and stuff. Is going to be a digital screen, fountain pop style vending.
That's awesome. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So that's my current project with the actual refillery, for the direction of the actual refillery part of it.
Is this something that's made now, or are they?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yep. So I'm currently working on a contact with Oakland University. That's where I would like to get in the dorms there. Get one of these stations in the dorms there.
Oh,
yeah.
Universities. Oh my God. Think of like U of M.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like,
and actually what I'm hoping to do is, once I get one in and get it, have my first one go through its trial, and then have all my data and everything that I need for that, then I can go down to Emma. Emma's the owner at BYOC, which is the refillery down in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And I can go, hey, I can get you one of these machines. You can start getting in the dorms here at U of M. And then I can, feed those to her, and she can do it. And she can have her logo on them for her refillery, which is the one that's right there in Ann Arbor. So
I'm excited for you. I'm like, I love hearing this visionary, this vision.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Like, I almost can't contain myself. And I honestly, it's hard for me to wait. It's hard for me to just sit and have the time go by while I'm waiting. Because I'm just like,
it's like, no, now put it in place.
I know. So this company is in Vancouver, and they have a few of these machines in Vancouver, and they are brand new. So, there's still going to be some, we still need to see how long, what's the life of the machine. There's a lot still, but this is their second machine. Like, they had an original prototype that was different, that they've already improved, and then this is now their second machine. So it's really fresh. Like, this is still very new. There's not a company in the United States doing it at all. That's why I'm working with a company in Canada.
Cool.
Yeah. There is a company in California and a company in New York that have these machines already. So I'll be the first one in anywhere in the middle of the country to have one. So
That's so cool. So you said you hope to have it in your hands by end of July?
I hope so. Yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Like, this is like world changing. You're like, it's not just like you working on this small thing. You're working on so many cool things.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited about everything that's going on.
It's been so awesome sitting here listening to your story and like listening to and you full out saying these are the things I've glossed over because I haven't been proud of them, but then giving them their credit.
Yeah,
because that's a big message of the show. We're either winning or we're learning, and oftentimes again we look back at experiences or things we've done and we don't see the value in it, or we think we wasted time, and it's so hard to be patient when we want to change the world now.
Yes.
But the things that you're going through them for a reason.
Yes. And there's so much validity in even just those waiting times.
Yes.
I mean, even if there's nothing going on, there's something going on.
There's something.
Because there's something that you're needing to figure out, or there's something that you are processing. There's something going on that you need at that time.
And you may not see it now, and it may be even embarrassing now where you don't want to talk about it. But there's some point where it becomes a big part of your story.
Yeah.
Or it becomes something that you want to share because you know there are other people going through that same exact thing right now.
Yep.
Cory, this has been so awesome. I'm so glad that you asked. Hey, can I be on? I'm like, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that you came all the way down.
Yeah, I know. It was nice. It was actually a nice drive.
Oh, good. Yeah, it is a nice drive. I love the kind of back roads.
Yeah,
from out there.
it was. I was thinking I was just going to be on the expressway the whole time, but it wasn't at all.
Yeah. It's a nice little. Are you in Ortonville still, or are you?
No, I actually came from Davisburg because that's where Mama Suds is, but I live in Auburn Hills.
Okay. So
near
Davisburg is a
Lake
very
Orion.
nice ride.
Yeah,
that was a very nice morning drive, and then drive back that night. It was it's all mostly back roads.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, Mama Suds is right there, right by where that farm is.
Okay.
Like if you came back out to Dixie Highway, it's like the next couple roads down. There's an industrial road there that has all industrial buildings. It's in there. So I'm right there by that farm. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cory, thank you so much for coming, sharing your story with the audience.
Thanks for having me. It was
My
so
pleasure.
good to talk to you.
My absolute pleasure.